Hello again, everyone. I am so sorry that something happened and we lost the connection here earlier. So I'm Henriette, welcome to Prime Strings, and this is the second half of the live stream about online teaching and learning. So we had a couple of people come in already and ask questions, and I'm just going to continue where it all broke up. And this is a prime example of what can happen when you deal with technology. Sometimes it doesn't work and you can get extremely stressed about it, or you can get slightly less stressed about it, and really there's nothing you can do. So welcome if you've rejoined us. And I'm very sorry about the little hiccup there. So what were we talking about? We were talking about a boy that was spending all of his time tuning in his lesson this week. Now you can say that is a big pain because that boy hasn't had a lesson. Actually, I think he's learned quite a lot. That he needs to get started with my video on tuning well in advance of his lessons so that he can see that he can try and do that before his lesson, because it takes up a lot of time. And secondly, you won't normally take that opportunity if you have the choice in a face-to-face lesson where you keep on trying and let them try it. How often do you pick up a violin or an instrument from your pupil and say, oh, I'll do it because that will save us a couple of minutes of lesson time? Actually, it's quite a good experience for somebody to see how difficult it is to tune a violin and to try and do it themselves. And I think there are some other advantages to online learning, because normally I would make the notes for people and say, for next week, you need to learn this, that, and that. And actually, I've had a couple of students this week asking me, so shall I learn that piece for next week? And would you like me to work extra between the letters E and F, or F and G, or something like that? Because we have been working on that. And I think that is a major bonus in your online teaching, because you are now not taking over from them. They have to take responsibility for their own learning, and they will learn much better if they crash and fall once and then pick themselves up. So trying to write down the name of their pieces. Oh, how do I spell the word gig, for instance? I mean, those are little things that are actually quite valuable to your day-to-day teaching once it comes back. And I said, I'm quite hopeful that it will come back. And so those are major issues, I think, that you can get them into a habit of being more self-supportive in their lessons while you're not there and trying to teach them. So that is a major thing. Sadly, I've had a couple of people break their strings while they were tuning it up. So I must admit, just driven out to somebody's house to fit a new string because they didn't have any spares. Again, they will not ever in the future not have any spare strings, I think, I hope. And I just fitted it outside of the house in the car after having disinfected the violin case and everything. But, you know, those things, they wouldn't happen normally in face-to-face lessons, and they might as well learn to fit the string themselves and have some spare strings with them as well. So if somebody has any more questions, feel free to ask the questions. And like I said earlier in my first half of this video, I don't know that I can answer all of them, but I will do my very best, and maybe some fellow people here might have a good idea about questions. So I'll deliberate a little bit more about timetabling the lessons. As I said in the first half of my little video, I have been keeping all the lesson schedules the same as they used to be, because I thought people have got their timetables. Actually, I doubt whether people actually look at their timetables that they had from their face-to-face lessons. So I send new timetables out, and I also send people an invitation to say when their lesson is. That works for me. So far that's worked for my pupils, and I'm a bit worried some arrived quite late in their lessons this week, and I was thinking, oh dear, if only they haven't forgotten. And I've actually, to be honest, come to think about it now, I have texted one or two people saying, are you ready to have your lesson now? So that might be another thing. But then you have to have phone numbers, and I don't have phone numbers, I've realized, for all of my pupils. So that is one other thing. So here is a question that has come through. Thank you so much for asking this question. In my lessons, I tend to do some music theory with people. And normally the student would fill in 1 or 2 or 3 pages, depending on where they're working on their theory, and then hand the book back to me for marking sort of in the middle of the week, and I give it back to them. That is, of course, much more difficult when you're not allowed out of your house. So I've suggested to do a page and then scan it. Now, luckily, I've got software that can perhaps sending a photo of it and then answering by email might be a way forward. But I've actually said that all the pupils working in theory books that are below grade 4 to just put it on hold, because they are learning the basics of music theory, and that will be very easily be picked up in September or whenever we get going again. However, those working in books 4 and 5, and they are doing the much more challenging music theory, I am very keen to keep that going, because if you lose a skill in those higher grades, then it is much more difficult to pick it back up again. And what I'm always a bit worried about is that people start to miss little bits of that earlier theory, so they miss the building blocks in the later stages. And music theory in grade 5 is getting quite challenging. So we don't really want to find ourselves with missing links, because then it becomes very challenging to do. So I have yet to find a way around the music theory, but as I said, scanning it, doing a page in your book, scanning it and sending it by email would be the way forward, I think, because you can't possibly have people drop off things and then pick them up again. That is practically impossible, because everyone's trying to limit going out these days. Of course, some people go shopping sometimes, but then you want to limit picking up things by hand. So with the theory, that will have to be done online, I think, as much as possible. If you have a lot of students doing theory, at the moment I'm quite lucky, there's just a couple of students who are working in books 4 and 5, so I can manage 2 or 3 sets of marking each week, because my schedule is very full. If that was nearer 10 or 15, if you're in a position that you've got so many students doing music theory, that becomes a different story, because that adds a couple of hours to your workload each week. So that about music theory. I hope that's answered your question. Is there anyone else who's got another question? Let me think of something else. So as far as I have been aware, music shops are still open, so people can buy music still. Of course, it goes all online, and I've been having conversations with my local music shop, and they have said, yes, we are now an online business, so we're trying to operate as normal, which is wonderful if people just keep their things going as much as possible. Sometimes it just takes a little bit longer. So what I've been doing is, people were ordering new music online, just take a picture of the first page of the new book, and then the child or the young person can get started again. So I think that's my way around it, and I would normally perhaps also do that if somebody is without music, like for instance, all the grade exams were suddenly cancelled. All those children, and I never have many taking grade exams, but this time I had 10 children are suddenly without books because they want to change their repertoire because they've done it for so long. That becomes slightly different, isn't it? So I've just been photographing the first page while the books were on order, and hopefully by next week or the week after, people have all their own new books again, and we can get started. Of course, it is handy when you teach online that you use the same editions of all the books as your as your student. And one of the first things I've done with most of my students is I've asked them to write in the bar numbers for all of their pieces, so that you don't get to a situation where you see, line 3, then the second note of the second bar, that E is an up bow or so. So you can just say bar 46 starts on an up bow, and that saves a lot of time. So I suggest that is one of the first things that you do, is just make sure, if you have more than one edition of books, which I'm lucky to have, I think most music teachers might have different editions of different books. Just ask everyone to write in bar numbers or letters, copy your letters that you have in your book, and that makes that makes working just a lot more efficient. So let's see if there was any other question that people might have. Maybe from a student point of view, can we hear the student voice maybe? What do you think? Do you think it works for you having online lessons? Or, of course, it's always, no, I shouldn't say it like that. It's always second best, I was going to say. It is very nice to see people in the flesh, and just to have that face-to-face contact, I really enjoy. But actually, this is what I was saying before we lost the connection for a moment, is that if you don't carry on the teaching, I know that the vast majority of my students wouldn't actually play. Of course, there are always a few wonderful people who keep it going regardless of you being there or not. But the vast majority, and that's my experience with my own children learning musical instruments, will not actually play if you're not there. So whilst this may be second best, teaching online, it gives the student an opportunity to get their instrument out and prepare for the lesson. Even if it's just once, the night before their lesson, it's more than nothing. And if this goes on over 3 months or so, and I'm honestly thinking we might be in this till September, sorry, not to put you off, but I'm just being realistic here. Just imagine anything that they do in between lessons is a bonus, okay, because it will set you back so much in September that anything is better than no contact. And I'm a great supporter of continuity in lessons. That is always my main aim: continuity. So that goes for online teaching as well. So if there are any more questions, you can ask them now. I'll just wait a little bit longer, because I said sometimes technology is a bit difficult to handle and it just takes a little bit longer. It will eventually work. Has anyone got something else to say? I'll just wait a little bit longer. No, I don't think anything is coming anymore. So thank you so much, everyone, for showing up here today. For me, the session has been really helpful, and I hope it was helpful for you too. This video will also stay on the channel, like the first half of this video, so you can watch it again later if you want to. As always, I'll ask you, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell button so that I can update you whenever something is happening again on this channel. We frequently release videos, and we do this monthly chat around the 1st of May again. So do join me again then. Goodbye.